Our water tanks are down the far end of the house. The one in front is the firefighting tank. The one behind services the house. I have long thought that it is not a good idea to have the firefighting tank past the house. Council approved the plan to have the fire tank there, so that's what we went with at the time. So the plan is to move the firefighting tank to here, which will mean it is in front of the house, like so. But what has triggered this activity to move the firefighting tank was actually brought about by the fact that my house tank is in serious decline. This galvanised tank has been in place for the best part of 6 years. Not only does it collect rainwater, but we also top it up with bore water. The tank often sits at 3/4 full, which is 7,500 litres, and you can see all these little rust spots. This is due to the mineral content of the bore water. Unfortunately, we've had to use a lot of bore water over the years, especially in our dry summers. In all that time, we've only been collecting water off this front section of the roof. So all the water that comes off the rest of the roof, that all gets diverted down to the dam. As a result, the piping is geared up for that. The reason we can't harvest water off the whole roof is because the tank is too high in relation to the height of the lowest part of the roof. Simply put, this just means there isn't enough fall between the roof and the tank to get the water up the pipe and into the tank itself. So because of that, a lot of the water that has gone into the tank has been bore water. We had a go at sealing some of the holes, and that worked well right there with flexi tape. On this one here, the rust hole got disturbed and started leaking, so then it was layer upon layer just to stop the actual overt leak instead of a potential leak. And by the time we did that and the little patch around the corner, that was 5 metres of tape, and at $37 a roll, that was completely unsustainable. And you can see where the water has been leaking down at the 3/4 mark. So, time to remedy the situation. I prefer galvanised tanks, no plastic lining, hence the state of my tank with bore water. But I have lowered my standards and gone for poly tank this time. I wouldn't normally have a poly tank or even plastic liners because of the synthetic hormone outgassing, in particular synthetic estrogens, which lead to estrogen dominance. But I'm the right side of menopause and my sons are teenagers or adults, so we're past the critical time for all of us. This one is 6,300 litres. It was delivered last week and has been tied to the firefighting tank, which contains 10,000 litres of water, so is pretty heavy. So the plan is, on Thursday night I will drain the contents of the tank, and on Friday there'll be some burly blokes around here to pick it up and move it to its new site, which the excavator will have prepared. Our water tank will then be removed and that will become firewood storage. The new tank will be put in place to use immediately, and then when I save up enough money, I will get another one which will sit here, which will then give us 12,600 litres instead of the 10,000 that we currently have. The plumber will also be on site to reconfigure this pipework so that we will then collect the rainwater from almost all of the roof. There is one small section where we divert the rain down to some small 1,000 litre tanks which I use for summer watering. So that will all be happening on Friday as well. So they will be doing some trench work here, exposing the pipework, because that is part of what will be required for reconfiguration of the pipes. Hopefully there won't be any hiccups in moving this tank. The boys decided the best way to move it would be to just pick it up, put it on the back of a ute, drive the ute up the driveway, and then lift it off and put it in place. Because these joins are only soldered, so you couldn't roll it without dinging the tank. Plus there's the stores valve here as well for connecting up to the fire truck. So you would have to take that off to roll the tank, and then you'd need to get it back on again without breaching the integrity of the tank. The bigger risk with the solder and rolling the tank is that it might crack and therefore start leaking. It's 10 o'clock on Thursday morning. The changeover is happening tomorrow, so I need to drain the firefighting tank. Rather than have it all gush out and cause gouging and erosion, I will have a gentle emptying, and we have this bit of sea pipe or channel here. This light coloured rock here is on top of a drain, an ag drain, ag pipe. So we have a gentle stream of water going into this channel. Okay, diggers on site, getting ready to do the pad for the firefighting tank. Tank site's done. Crusher dust being put down as the base. Well, that's one way to drain a tank. Here comes the digger down the driveway. Vicky's not sure. Okay, diggers come down to dig the trench or expose the pipework. Here we go. Okay, new tank site is ready to go. The first of the pipe work has been exposed. House tank is still emptying. Getting ready to install the new tank. Putting a strap around the rainwater tank, ready for pickup. Tap is now in place. Okay, we've got to the moment of truth. Is the bottom going to fall out of this tank? It's been sitting there with town water in it for 5 years. Will it tolerate being shifted? That's the big question of the day. While it's on an angle, the last of the water can drain out. Righto. Okay, here it comes. Okay, it's on the ground. You can see one ding there where the roof is lifting. Okay, time to move the second tank, which is now empty. Now hopefully this one can be moved without it falling apart in some fashion. Oh, that's rusty water dripping out of that top pipe. The outlet pipe from the other side just flew off. She's up. The dog's beside himself. There it is, at the wood pile. Oh, look at that water come out, yuck. So while I was up the front, they've put this tank on the pad.
We want to pick it up and try and rake it out a bit.
So the height of the outlet is a bit different to the galvanised tank. So now the boys have to work at bedding in the tank and getting the outlet and inlet connected to the pipes. Connected to these pipes here. Well, that one's easier to move than the galvanised tank. The digger driver said, "Do you want it 50 or 52 mil taken off?" You've got to love these digger drivers, they're craftsmen. Right, let's have another go at getting it down. Look out, Cobber.
Yeah, keep coming. Luke, come this way.
Come on, Cobb.
So go down there, we'll move by in there. Down there.
So the tank is back in position and we are working at levelling it. The plumber will come back probably next week and reconfigure the pipe work. We have this water here, but we think it's groundwater because the tank was draining so late. The fitting was wrong, so they'll bring a new one back later this afternoon. Well, the sun's come out at last, after how many days? And the water carrier has arrived to refill my firefighting tank. He should have about 400 litres left over, so he'll pop that into the house tank as well. But I do have the bore running, which runs on solar panels. The rest of the water from the carrier goes into this tank, about 400 litres. It's next morning and the pipe is leaking at the join here. It doesn't seem to be at the moment, but it was earlier, and it looks like that end bit is cross-threaded. So it turns out that there was a little bit of gravel caught up in the housing, this thing, so that was cleared and it needed a bit of thread sealing tape and a good tightening and no more leaks. And we're running the bore on that second one, which was also leaking slightly yesterday. It just got a bit more tightening and no more leaks. This is the first rain we've had since the new tank was installed. The plumber hasn't been yet, so the pipe work hasn't been reconfigured. We are still only collecting water from the front of the house roof, but it's lovely to see this rainwater going in there. Time to reconfigure the pipes, and one's sprung a leak in a charged system. So that's what you can expect. Here's the site supervisor. The plumber will cap the pipe where it runs down to the dam and just reconfigure this section so that all the roof water goes to the water tanks. That will make for a charged system below. The plumber's gone off to get some more fittings. We have a bit of broken pipe here. So we've exposed the end of the pipe. This is going to be capped off. This goes down to the dam. There's the end of the pipe ready to be capped. I washed the end of it, so it's made a bit of a puddle. Okay, new fittings being put in. Getting ready for the next join. It's a fiddly job, alright.
No easy way of doing it though.
Put a bit of sand in to support the pipe work and avoid a lot of rocks in the clay. So we have 2 barrow loads of sand in there to protect the pipe. Primary site supervisor was in the house when it was all happening, so he's just investigating it for the first time. Now, secondary site supervisor, we don't want it dug up. While I was getting barrow loads of sand, the plumber came down and put a cap on this pipe. So water will no longer flow out of this pipe. Because the plumber was working in muddy water, some of that water inevitably ended up in the pipe work. I've turned the bore on. I can hear it going into the tank. I have turned the access to the tank off and leaving that running while the pipe flushes out near the muddy water. Second tank has arrived on site. It's a bit of a job.
We'll slide him on his bottom so he doesn't mark well.
Using the poles as skids again. Very handy. Here it comes. The site supervisors working hard.
Lift him and get that timber out, don't we?
I didn't realise there was an overflow outlet, so we put the tank the wrong way. So the boys are just spinning it around to go into the right position. So the fellas came with a step-down adapter and sorted it out. The first tank started overflowing yesterday because we've had a lot of rain. So we had a pipe here which runs down here into this cut-off 200 litre drum. Used to contain the sand that went into the hole, so now it has some of this blue metal which isn't required. There is an agricultural pipe, ag pipe, underneath all this rock. So the holes in the bottom of this, because originally it had fruit trees growing in it, or a fruit tree growing in it, and then that just drains straight into the ag drain. There are several piles of blue metal left over from where we levelled it out to put the tank, so I will probably fill another of those blue tubs to accommodate the overflow from the second tank. So apart from that, the job is done. It took about 5 minutes for the water from the full tank to flow into the second tank, thereby levelling the two tanks out so that they are now both half full.